Yo, how's it going? Been a little while since we've done a deck stage. Been trying to get one of these done every week, and here we are for this week's deck stage. So, as always, deck sage is the regular show that I do where people send in deck lists, which you can find a Google form for right in the description down below. I'll take a look at them, try to help improve them, and try to make them as good as I can with your help. So real quick, I always give a disclaimer before I do this. I'm not perfect. I don't know every deck. Everybody has pet cards they like more or less than others. I can't make the determination on what cards are best for your particular deck. But I can do my best to help give recommendations and try to make decks as strong, consistent, and powerful as possible. And that's what I want to do today. So, without any further ado, let's take a look at Big Red Machine. So, Alex says this is a mono fire deck. They've been to a Materia Cup. This deck is for locals, but they want to take it seriously. No Magissa, no Samurais. They find them dull. That's a-okay with me. I kind of agree. Honest Goodness, Mono Fire, unsure whether to bump from 13 to 15, had Machinist Culinary and Geomancer instead of Miyu and the two Agido Cadets, which individually are bad cards. Not sure which backup lineup is preferable for Idolis, Warrior of Light. Feels consistent with Ferris, Marsh, and Shinryu. Deck tests well, feels a little lost between proactive and reactive. Any thoughts? Appreciate your FFTCG vids. Much help from the UK. Alright, well, let's take a look. So as always, I'm going to go on FF decks, and I'm going to go into the deck editor, and I'm going to take a look. So first things first that I'm already seeing that I don't like, we have the Miyu combo in the Mootski, and I know the card has no text. But I do think we need to run the other Agido Cadet backup. It sucks. I don't like running backups. It's Carla that just don't do anything, but you gotta run it. We're on 3 Iodolus, which we're using to revive Warrior of Light. I think that's a little too cute, but I think there are a couple ways we can make that work. I do think if we're doing this, we need to ramp our backups very well, which we need the Carla and Mutsuki for. We have Princess Goblin. We need the 2 copies of Cooch Haspel, because we are on a Goblin package. Okay. So we have a couple options. One thing I will say, it is sort of a samurai, but we should have a pretty fast backup lineup. I think it's worth cutting 1 Iodolus for the 4-drop samurai. Just to get a bit of a different name in there. It's a little slower, but you also can like pull in Squall in combat or pull in Warrior of Light in the middle of combat on your turn, which just seems pretty good. The other thing that's tricky, I think running 1 copy of Machinist. I'd like to go to 2, but I don't want to go higher on backups. We can't run Geomancer because we have the 3 Shinryu. I don't think we can safely run that. But this gets me to 15 backups, and I feel pretty safe that at least this is we can pitch this to get deeper into the deck if we need to. Actually, let's do this. We're going to go down a Cooch Haspel and up on the Machinist to 2. Cooch Haspel, if we really need it, we can get out of the deck with Shinryu potentially, right? So the fact that we're potentially going to be struggling with our burn spells, I don't think is that big of a deal. Jin is a great card, but I'm always a bigger fan of running it at 1. And I do think we need to run 1 copy of... I'm a big fan of running 1 copy of Haste Goblin as a part of the Goblin engine. Kind of gives you like an end cap for your goblins to go into. We're on the Ifrits, which is great. I'm going to cut the Belias in favor of the Goblin. And this seems pretty decent to me here. Which then brings us to our forward lineup. The 1 of Cloud is cute, but I would rather just go for the 3rd ace. and get this as consistently as possible. And there are going to be hands where the ace is dead. But I mean, the only thing we care about exile, like removing from the game, are like the 4 drops for the most part. I've never been a huge fan of Ferris Luneth, but I do recognize like the power of these cards potentially as like a perpetual removal engine. And this should just be a decent mid-range mono fire deck. 51 cards, gotta cut one. We can go back to 2 ace, I guess. I think this deck does a little bit of everything. It should ramp very well. It should be very quick. Something like Miu, and then next turn going like Carla Machinist into a Culinarian. Like you're just ramped so far ahead at that point that you can kind of afford some like kind of expensive average backups like the Ayatollah is, like the 4-drop Samurai. I just want a different name for these just in case. And there are useful things about not having the revival effect be an entry effect, right? That's about all the changes I would make. I'm not a huge mono fire pilot myself, but there are definitely things this does well. You could consider going down to like 2 Terras to make room for one more like good stuff fire card. Maybe like even like a 2-drop Warrior of Light would go pretty well in this deck. It would conflict with the other Warrior of Light, but like it does dig you for the right backup you're looking for potentially. It's just a good card to have access to. That would also make me feel a lot more comfortable running fewer backups. But the other thing about running 15 backups is Princess Goblin isn't necessarily a backup because Shinryu exists. So yeah, relatively simple. I think this deck looks totally fine. I actually think this deck would have done pretty well at the Materia Cup. Not the Materia Cup, the US Nationals. Being that it's monocolor, it does have access to some power plays and some anti-aggro with the Ayatollah Warrior of Light stuff. If you really wanted to, you could also bump these, cut the 1 copy of Samurai, and you gotta cut 1 more card. Cut a Machinist. Like this would also be fine if you like. To me, I'd like to go like all in on the Warrior of Light Ayatollah if we're gonna do that and run like 3/3. I'm just not a huge fan of it, just because you can't get the Warrior of Light into play in any other way. Alright, moving along, we have Terra Grind Opus 20. So this is from No Soup for You. They have been to Materia Cup, want to compete seriously. The deck is built for locals, and they want to get to 10 to 15 backup uses, ruin their economies, lock their forwards. Fun to pull off, not exactly a bad deck, wondering if the concept can stand into serious tournament play. So, let's take a look. When I saw the description of Terra, I was thinking it was going to be the other Terra, actually. So we have... This is a Earth Terra forward list. So of note with Earth Terra is, if you've never seen this card, she's actually pretty powerful. She's a 3 CP, 7k. She gives all of your Category 7 backups, or Category 6 backups, the ability to make CP of any element, and then you can have all these different action abilities based on getting elements other than Earth. So fire gives her haste, ice gives her the ability to freeze a character, water gives her the ability to dull a character, and if you get all 3, you can break a forward by tapping her. So what that means, though, is we do need to get our backups in order. We need to be able to generate lots of different colors on our backups. And we can. We have the 3 Tyro, the 2 Shantoto, the 1 Chaos. We are really trying to go all in on that. We have the Class 9th Moogle, which is good because that gives us... Is that good? It gives us the Warrior of Light color, but it doesn't increase the options for Terra herself. And we're on an Ice Earth core. Calabrina is to try to protect the Terra, I'm guessing. And we have the Atomos here to try to reactivate our backups, but we're going to struggle to get our casts off by doing that. Interesting. It's a very interesting one. So we have the Celes. Celes gets us Lock. So we can actually go down a copy of Lock. We don't want to brick on this, and Celes does have the discard mode, which is fine. It's not ideal, but it is decent enough that I feel okay leaving it there for that reason. Setzer at 3 is okay. I'd like to go Setzer to 2, Sid to 3. I like the Kamari. I think the Kamari is great. We have Tyro Shantoto for rainbows here. We have the Kamari up here. So all of our backups are rainbow, except for the 6 backups, which are rainbow when Terra is on the field. I think that's good. Earth gives lightning. That's not super useful. We're really dependent on Terra. Like this is a must-see at all cost card, which I'm always a little scared of for a 3CP 7K. Uh, hmm. It's a lot harder to evaluate this. I like the Cactuar. Shiva's a fantastic card. I think this is a really slept-on card for sure. I want to cut the Calbrena down to 2. I just don't know how live that will be, how often. And Sephiroth is fine. We have Warrior of Light. We have our extra copies of the Demon, which pairs well with our Gestalian Empire Sid. How many category 6 characters we have? We have 14. Part of me almost wants to run this with Edgar's Sabin and lean a little heavier into the 6 stuff. I'm wondering if you can run enough of a fire package in here. I think that this adding 3 more cards, like a second Kate Sith and a couple other things. I'm curious, so I'm going to leave this here, and I'm going to try to run just a little bit more 6 stuff. So 3 Edgar. This is a little bit of a different direction for the list. But I do think it has potential, because also Sabin can protect the Terra, which is really nice. I'm going to go down to 1 Ceramobius, down to 1 White Tiger. I think Calbrena's fine here. Celes is fine. If we do this, we can actually go to the other Setzer, because we're going to have a much higher 6 density. Which also means we can run Mog 6. And I'm going to be a little bold with the 128s here. And then we're going to cut out the Sephiroths. I'm going to go down a copy of the Mog. Down a copy of Prish. Down there. Cut the class 9th entirely. That puts us on 45. Let's go down this Sabin. Down a 128. Down a wall. 2 cards left to cut. I would probably do the Calbrena, and we want to get the backups down first. So maybe 1 copy of Cactuar, because we do have a lot of access to break outside of this. Oh no, we're good. Maybe something like this. Kind of this like Rainbow 6 Ice Fire Earth deck I think could be really interesting. Like you're still relying on the Terra, but we have now 27 6 forwards, which seems pretty decent. You could run Strago in here if you wanted to, as well, to kind of dig for your 6 cards, which I think could be really powerful. I think this looks decent. It's a weird one just because it's not a deck I have a ton of experience with. I know Travis messed around with like the forward Terra run Opus 16 as his pet deck, but it's kind of a card that fell to the wayside after that. Not a lot of people really have experimented with it, but here's a different angle for it. Give it a shot, sleeve it up, see how you like it. If you don't, then I think what you had was probably about as what I would stick with for the most part. All right. We have Joey with retainers. So this is a friend of mine, actually. Been to a Materia Cup, wants to compete seriously. This deck is intended for serious tourney play, and he says, fix my memes with a smiley face. So anybody that knows me knows this is actually maybe my favorite starter deck archetype ever. I love retainers. I think they're super flexible. There's a lot of really cool things they can do. And I think there's a lot of potential for retainers as an engine, as an archetype, and as a deck with just good things to be doing at all times. So let's take a look at what we've got here. So we've got a very, very heavy split, 29 forwards, 18 backups, just the 2 summons, just the 3 monsters. So first things first, I'm going to cut the Shadow Lord. I see a lot of 5-drops with wall. I'm immediately thinking we need to put the Shinryu in here. We're going to also want to go down on board state early. Shinryu is just very good in any circumstance like that. Going from there, we have our Unsog, which I guess is there to protect the Noctis. Wonder if there's a better option than the Unsog here, honestly. We're on Cecil for Cecil, which I actually quite like. Our backups are kind of all over the place. This is something we can do quite a bit of fixing up on, I think. Alright, I like the Tilica for the potential to play the Cecil off of 1, which is really nice, but we don't have a secondary target. A lot of these 2-drops I'm going to actually start clearing out. Semi's really nice with Star Sibyl, which is really good with Ignis. I'm okay with that, but I want to go to 3 here. Regis to me is just worse than Cindy is. Cindy fits what this deck is trying to do, and I'm going to bump the wall to 3 as well. We have our Star Sibyl. I want 2 copies of Shantoto. I want big Shantoto. The 5-drop is still fine. And we have the Shinryus now, so it's actually better than it was. I'll stick with 5-drop Shantoto. But I'm running it at 3. If I'm going to run it, I'm going to run it. I'm going to brick on it. Ifalna is a good card, but doesn't really fit what we're doing. Jige gets us Yuffie, but only Yuffie. I guess like it gets a forward back when you break it, but I'm going to cut it. Iris, I think, is fantastic. I'm going to leave her at 2 or 3. Class 8th, I'm going to go down a copy of. I'm going to leave the Semi at 2. Now we have the potential to make our walls very cheap, which is really good. I'm going to go down 1 copy on Gladio. We really need our Mist Dragon here. I go 2 Mist Dragons. I'm going to cut 1 copy of Ashtola. I like what she offers the deck, but I think that we can do a lot of the same stuff with Mist Dragon, and thanks to the recursion off of cards like Ignis, I think we can get to our Y'shtola if and when we want her. Alright, then I guess we do. How much do I like the Tifa in here? She's not a bad card, and the special is really, really good, if a little expensive. I like mid because it procs the the Noctis on the opponent's turn. Our backups are actually really strong and really consistent now. Just curious. Dryad does not protect from summons. So I think the Unsog does have a place here. Now, admittedly, you are going to have to get your backups down relatively quickly here. We should have targets to play off of our Cecil as well. I don't think we're really struggling for that. Maybe down a copy on wall. I like a little bit. And then it's weird, but because Norsh only searches herself in Silica, I'd almost go down a copy there. And I think this seems decent. We're a little vulnerable to backup breaking. But I mean, this is a 2 CP backup. This is a 2 CP backup. This is a 1 CP backup. She's 3 with added value. 2. I mean, Silica's slow, but you can't play Silica on the wrong matchup. This is kind of what that boils down to. The only thing that's a little annoying here is we can't. I mean, we can actually pay 5 for Cecil's not horrible. You would do that, I feel like. Yeah, I think something like this would be solid. I do think you're going to like the 3 Shinryu once you give it a shot and start playing with it. I know that this deck does a very good job at controlling the board state, but Shinryu, like having a Shinryu in hand allows you to really focus on getting these backups down while threatening like the best thing you can possibly doing. And then Shinryu being untargetable while you have wall and also drawing a card, like if your opponent somehow has 4/4, like say your opponent's on 6, you go like tap 2 backups, play wall, tap 2, play Shinryu. Shinryu search for like Cecil, draw off of wall, play Cecil, Cecil cheats in Noctis, Noctis for Prompto. Like you can get the whole chain off that way. It seems really good to me. I don't think we would really miss the 3rd Gladio. Like it's a good card, but we have the Ignis as well now. I mean, you could go 2 Gladio or 3 Gladio, 2 Ignis, but I just think Ignis is a better card. There is a bit of a fear Ignis is going to eat our backups quite a bit. So maybe we do go 2 Ignis and 3 Gladio, so we'd eat less of our backups for Ignis. But I think this seems pretty solid. You could maybe consider cutting the Tifas entirely as well and going for a higher backup count, which I don't think would be horrible. Yeah, like cutting Tifas for the 3rd Northstalin and like a wall trill could be really nice. Let's do that. I think we have enough removal. We don't really need the Tifa here. Thornton or Stalin. Let's get a wall trill in the backups. And we're going to get 1 baby Yuffie. This gives us a nice even 25-25 split. We have a lot of backups now to play. A lot of backups we're okay with breaking. And all of our backups have relevant and powerful text. Yeah, I think this seems pretty decent. Maybe even an argument to cut the Yuffie here, but I think this looks solid. We create a really sticky board that only loses to Shantota, which I guess means we can actually bump the Ishtola up and go down a Yuffie. That puts us back at the two Ishtolas. Now we don't lose to Shantota anymore. The only thing that would scare me with this deck is it's a little bit slow to interact on the opponent's turn. You're kind of building a big, huge F-off board and daring your opponent to beat you. It reminds me a lot of like Madolche in Yu-Gi-Oh! But it is a very big, difficult to deal with board. And your forward sizes, like your bodies, are huge in this deck, which is really good. Yeah, thanks for sending the deck in. Alright, up next we have Braska's Grand Summon by Blaze. They have been to a Materia Cup. Deck is for locals. 128 is for Ifrit's Flames, and to do 10k with Valifor and Ifrita. Shinryu does draws or board wipes, and a third Amaterasu is not in the budget. Easy enough, we will not go for the third Amaterasu. Let's take a look. Okay, so we're trying to do a very like summon heavy control game plan with like Braska for Grand Summon using like 128 and stuff to kind of continuously wipe the board so our opponent can't ever stick forward, and then we can just kind of win the game. I think that's not unreasonable. Let's see what else we have access to here. BFA. We're on 3 full BFA. If the demon's in the budget, I would run the demon over BFA. We do have 1 summoner forward, but we need 2 for the action ability on BFA. I know that you said the Amaterasu isn't in the budget, so if this isn't in the budget either, just feel free to cut it. But the demon is just such a good card at like stopping the opponent from playing. Actually, like 1 copy of the Goddess here as well to give us some extra break zone hate. I don't love Shinryu as a card. I get that like the idea is like you can go like cleave here, but we don't have a lot of recursion for our 128. You have to like self-ping it, which is doable. But I would rather focus on slightly stronger summons, I think. So we have Valifor. We have Yuna as a forward, though, which always scares me a little bit. Like, Valifor is a good card, but we do really, really, really need the Yuna to get the full value out of it. And the only Yunas that we have access to are water or the wind forward, really. Unsog, I think, is totally defensible here. Although this might be a deck you consider Dryad, so you have pitch fodder for the Braska. Ishtola to be obnoxious makes sense. The 2, I mean, I think you go 3 Lulu. I can say that right away. I don't love the Shinra use. I'm going to cut it, but you are more than welcome to leave it in here. I just think 3 Lulu with Ifrit seems very, very good. Kuj Haspel. Do we need Norstall for Kuj Haspel? Yeah, that's decent. I'd still probably get a Lilty in there. What are Ice or Wind? I wonder if there's a way to cascade into Yuna. Here's where we start getting really fancy with stuff. Backup. Category FFCC. Oh no, it won't be that. It would be just a standard unit 3CP fire backup. Is it? Yeah, it's Black Mage. Could cascade into a Yuna if we wanted to play a Yuna backup. Yuna can play a Guardian of cost 2. But there aren't any of those in fire, so you'd have to run a Water Guardian. Which I don't think we're going to do all that often. Although, Orin is just a decent card altogether. Let's go 2 demons, 1 goddess. I don't hate the 128. We can kind of do some pretty nuts things over here. We have that. Be a little worried about getting our backups down if the goal is to do Grand Summon, but all you need is Philo, Vaughn, and we have it. And the Cooch Haspel is really nice to have access to as well. I think I'd like to see 1 copy of Lilty in here regardless, just to get an alternate fire target that's not... Because there are games where having that 1 extra CP probably does matter. No, I think we're actually okay. Because our backup line really needs to be Philo, Vaughn, Norstalen, Chaspel, Cosmos. Like, this is a pretty fixed backup line. Almost makes you want to run like a Charlotta or like a triple Shinryu and just say we're going to go really low on forward size and just try to win the game by being annoying. If we did that, we could go down our copy of the Goddess. We don't have another Amat. The Ifrita are like cute, but I don't really think you really cast this that often. Like even with like the fallback. I guess getting all 3 modes on this Ifrita is really good. We do have a lot of Ifrits, so maybe that is fine. This might be a deck that runs just 2 Shinryu then, to try to get things lined up properly. Maybe like down the Unsag for 2 copies of... Just to kind of help with the unbricking. This can get us either a backup or our Braska or our Ishtola to protect our field, or just whatever the best thing we can currently get is. Even like another number 128 for a special could actually be just game determinative, right? So I kind of like that. I'm really not sold on the Yuna Valifor. Oh, you do have 2 summoners because you have Yuna and Braska. I think it's a little more like use than it's worth. Same for like the Yuna Valifor here. It just seems a little bit hard to line up a 2-2 line. If I were to cut that, I think, especially since it sounds like you're on a little bit of a budget, 2 copies of this Chocobo, which is both a summon for Braska and allows us to dig for our like relatively small backup count, and it's another EX burst. Actually, I can go like 3 of this Chocobo and a copy of Izana. Or like a Cater actually seems decent too. I'll go with the Cater. Just get 1 more Firewind card in there. I would go for something like this, I think. This allows us to dig for those backups. We have extra summons now to kind of do our Braska game plan. Actually, let's get rid of the Cater. Let's run 2 Azura. Azura gets us back our Braska, and there's a Dane, which I think is just really, really nice. And he gets back the Unsag. Yeah, I really like the Azuras here instead. One card got to get shaved. It's probably the Cater, but it could be the extra Chocobo here. But this gives us 16 summons. We have a lot of summon recursion. We should be very consistently able to find our backups. And we have while we're curving out, our opponent goes super aggro, we can go Shinryu, double Shinryu special, and just kind of wipe the board, reset, and probably win the game for our opponent trying to play punish us. I think this looks really solid. Last one of the night, we have Sergio sending in Old Lock Tricolor Cat 6. Been to Materia Cup, want to compete seriously. Serious tourney play practice. Main concern in local meta are Chaos, Arc, and Summons. Never beaten that kind of deck with Cat 6. I can tell you you have because you've beaten me with it on radio once. Scions, Lightning Fire have beaten them in the past when you played a similar deck without Andoria. So we're considering adding Unicorn, but the lock reveals are going to fail if that number increases. Swapping the new Celes, play with water but not water backups. What do you think? So let's take a look here. This is old school Cat 6 with 5 CP lock, which I think is pretty defensible right now. I know a lot of players don't have the water backup. I don't hate running a copy or two of Andoria. That might sound blasphemous, actually. But even if you whiff on occasion with this lock, it doesn't end the game. I know that it means that like your planned combo turn didn't go according to plan, but you're not going to whiff a majority of the time. Your deck is still majority category 6. I still might drop her to 2, to be totally honest, and just go up like to that. But I think that like the having 2 Andoria in here to have the chance at a water backup is totally defensible. As far as dealing with summon decks, the other option, we can cut the Andorias and go for lock instead. Or not for lock, for Unicorn, which does deal with stuff like Rydia and a lot of your summon payloads. As far as the forwards go, we're on the 3/3 Sabin. We have 3 Celes. I always like to run at least one copy of the 2-drop Celes, just as a way of closing the game. We can get her back when we need her. 2 Gao is usually okay. We have our 3 Sabins. The 2 Yeti Spaghetti Umaros is fine. This all seems really good. 3 Demons is standard, but I don't hate 2. I've seen plenty of games where the 6th player loses because they go for a demon too early. Because it's like the best play they have access to. Like another play could have done better. 24 is actually really good at dealing with your Fire Lightning Scion problem, by the way, if you're really struggling with that. I could easily see something like this working out really well. Just going up on this to 2, and going down on the extra special Sabin for 1 more. Other than that, there's really not a lot else I'd be changing. We're going to curve out pretty consistently with that. We have the ability to do all of our stuff. The only other thing to consider maybe is that 1 copy of Unicorn. There are a couple copies of Unicorn. Like you could cut the Andorias for 2 Unicorns and then run Terra backup. But I don't hate this deck as it is. I think the 2 Andoria whiffs are defensible enough for the power play the deck gives you with Setzer and this lock. The only thing I will say, actually, this makes me kind of reconsider that. This Andoria pairs with this lock, but we're building the deck to function with this lock. So maybe we actually just don't run Andoria at all. This is actually getting really close to the Materia Cup winning list. And then we just run 2 copies of Unicorn. Unicorn there. We can go actually add a copy of Terra as well for our backups. Get 1 extra backup name in there. Go down 1 copy on something. Um, 4 CP Celes is a decent option. Go like a 2-1 split there. You also could just go down a Unicorn, up the Celes. Have the Unicorn be like a whiff for lock, but not a whiff for the cast trigger. Seems decent. And if you have 3 of the Celes, you do have like infinite access to your Gauge, Drago, your Fiends, your Mogs to keep recasting stuff like your Unicorn. So I don't hate running just 1 copy of Unicorn, to be honest. So that is the deck stage for the day. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. I do have quite a few of these left in the backlog, but that doesn't mean I don't want more. Please continue to send them in. I love looking at deck lists and talking them over and giving my thoughts on them. And I really like. I love hearing people saying that like they've watched videos and they feel like they're having at least a different perspective on the game, if not a better understanding of it, and what you should be doing while deck building. Again, I'm not saying I'm perfect. A lot of these deck lists are kind of spitballing ideas and seeing what might or might not work. Some of them are probably better as they started. I think that the most likely one of that is the Earth, Ice, Terra list from earlier. But if nothing else, I like giving some food for thought and helping people try to learn the game. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hope y'all have a great one, and I'll see y'all in the next video.